Welcome. This is Charlie from CIC News for You with a topic that all Americans need to be aware of, and that is the Chinese Belt and Roads Initiative, normally called BRI. While there are many good things that this initiative accomplishes, it is the end result of what it provides China that is concerning. Now realize both China and the United States are doing the same thing, basically helping countries advance with support and programs, and that is a good thing to do. However, the use of this help for global dominance is a very concerning matter. The United States pushes for democracy while China pushes for communism, and both countries want worldwide acceptance of their ideology. Given I am a believer in democracy, I don't believe we can allow China to gain communist world dominance, and that is the reason I want to inform you of the efforts of the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP. You need to know the facts of what China is doing. Let's continue. What is the Belt and Roads Initiative? So I know most of you have heard of the Belt and Roads Initiative, called BRI for short, but do you know the background and potential consequences of this initiative for the United States and other countries worldwide? I'm here to explain it to you to make sure you are informed so you can decide. In 2013, President Xi kicked off the Belt and Roads Initiative with a two-phased approach, a land-based and maritime approach. The perceived path is displayed on this slide, and you will notice the initiative is far-reaching. Per the Bertelsmann Foundation, China's Belt and Road Initiative is the most ambitious infrastructure plan in world history. Get that? World history. That is quite a statement given the rebuilding of countries after World War I and World War II. It is further pointed out that the BRI is a multi-pronged plan to re-image global supply chains, technological connectivity, and military strategy. This is concerning to me. Do we want China controlling supply chains worldwide? I don't think so, especially given their behavior during the COVID-19 crisis, which shows how undependable China is. We all know that in China, the government is first, above all else. Now, for technological connectivity, again, I think not. All communications and internet usage in China somehow makes its way back to the military, and we all know that is a bad thing. And finally, for the military strategy, that stands on its own, and the answer is no way. We do not want nor need China increasing their military throughout Asia, Africa, and Europe. That should concern everyone, in my opinion. To continue, let's look at Xi's vision. Pretty short and simple and follows what I just described. Xi's vision is a vast network of railway, energy pipelines, highways, and streamlined border crossings, all headed west through the mountains of the Soviet republics and south to Pakistan and India and the rest of Southeast Asia. And to top it off, China plans to build 50 special economic zones in these areas. While a lot of this doesn't seem bad, and the efforts of China actually does help a lot of third world countries, the underlying question is, what does China expect in return for these services? I'll cover that shortly. But let's start looking at some of the accomplishments of the BRI. So, China is spending billions on this initiative, and according to Morgan Stanley, the expenditures are expected to reach over $1 trillion. $1 trillion. That is substantial and more than the GDP of most countries. I think there's only like 15 countries that are higher this in GDP in the world. The BRI spans 140 countries, involving 2/3 of the world's population, where China has created a vast network of railways, pipelines, and highways. Now that is not a bad thing for the countries that China is helping. The concern is the amount of control China will have for these accomplishments, and that is still to be determined. In recent years, China has expanded into the African continent, and numerous trade and infrastructure projects are completed. Again, not a bad thing for Africa, and if the United States is not helping these nations, the door is surely open for China. Maybe the U.S. needs to reevaluate our international policy before it is too late. And one more point is that BRI is in Australia with infrastructure grid assistance and renewable energies, as well as getting into southern European grids and wind power in Portugal, Greece, Germany, and the UK. Are you getting concerned yet? I am. The reach of the BRI is a lot more than I was aware of until I did research to create this video. So maybe, since this is all in Europe and Asia, the US has nothing to be concerned about. Well, think again. That is not the case. Peru has announced that it will join China's Belt and Road Initiative, becoming the 19th country in Latin America. Get that? The 19th country in Latin America. This is getting real close to our southern border and is deeply concerning, especially with all the dictators in South America more than willing to join up with China, in my opinion. So, bottom line is that China and the BRI are successful, and the CCP is making big inroads throughout the world. Many countries have benefited, and many good things have come out of the BRI initiative. So what is the concern about China helping other countries? What is the Chinese Communist Party really up to? The answer is simple. World economic and military dominance. This is the end game for the Belt and Road Initiative, in my opinion. Alright, let's now talk about some of the issues with the Belt and Road Initiative so you can kind of understand where they're going. Take a look at these two pictures while I go over some key events and issues. The picture on the right displays a view of countries and their risk to China for defaulting on loans. You can see a couple already in default and more than a handful with moderate risk. This chart is from 2018, and my assumption is you would have more reds and moderates if this was updated. I'll discuss why this is an issue in just a moment. Now, for the shocker before I go, the BRI is up and running in South America. Get that? In our backyard, the CCP is slowly gaining control, and in many locations. Look at the picture on the left, and you will see a lot of red, and all this red is close to us. This makes the BRI all that more concerning. Where in the heck is the media on this? Why is this not global news in the United States? For starters, President Xi has promoted a future vision of a more assertive China. What the heck does that mean? It certainly doesn't sound like they are on a path to global peace. Most of us already know that the Chinese Communist Party is on the march towards geopolitical and economic dominance. And you can add military dominance to this as well. So, what does this mean? It means that the Belt and Roads Initiative has to get all major decisions from the CCP. So the payback of all of this stuff on the BRI is not just good being with other countries. This initiative is right in line with China's world dominance goals, at least in my opinion. Let me explain further. From my research, I would break up the efforts of the BRI into three categories, called integration, dependence, and control. Integration. This is where they get their foot into the door by providing a lot of freebies and technical labor resources along with low-cost financing. This is a very enticing option to countries that don't have funds to grow their infrastructure. Dependence. Once the funding is provided and the projects start, there is dependence. These countries now owe millions, if not billions of dollars to the Chinese Communist Party. Additionally, I would assume the country is now also dependent on China for the resources to build, implement, and maintain the infrastructure. China now has gained a voice to pressure the country into their compliance, in my opinion. Control is the last phase. This is where the benefit to the CCP plays in. Loan defaults provide opportunities for China to advance its goals, as well as leverage a threat to pull all their resources, especially those directly supporting operating systems already installed. Let's cover a few examples of real-life situations. Sri Lanka defaulted on debts. How did China deal with this? They forced Sri Lanka to give control to China, the port of Hambantota, if I said that right, for 99 years. Wow, what a cost for Sri Lanka. I don't ever see China giving up this port. Think about that. China now owns this port in Sri Lanka. Pakistan, another poor country, now owes more than $10 billion to the Chinese Communist Party for help with the port of Gwadar. The only question now is, what will China require when payment can't be made? Probably the turning over this port to China. Cuba, right in our backyard, was in a desperate economic situation in 2011, and China agreed to help. Of course, the details of the transaction were not disclosed, but it reportedly included additional financing for port rehabilitation. Wow, that is 3 ports China has basically acquired and has full use of, if not ownership. According to research, China is trying to assemble a string of pearls so it can dominate much of Asia and other parts of the world. The string of pearls consists of ports. Based on my previous comments, this should be concerning. Where is our government? Where is the media on this? All right, let's cover a few other points and then go on. The Prime Minister of Malaysia seems to understand China's goal and stated that China may be turning into a new colonial power. Given our world history and all the past colonial nations, I find it unacceptable to let China go down this route. I have no problems with China helping these countries, especially the poor third world countries. But I am against colonialization and the use of intimidation to advance communism. The United States has finally caught on and is starting to push back on Chinese expansionism as a national security concern, and rightly so. Additionally, the U.S. is working with Australia, India, and Japan on a massive development effort to counter Chinese power. My only hope is that it's not too late. Europe is even starting to catch on to the Chinese efforts and are now concerned that China is trying to divide Europe politically. At least Europe is starting to open their eyes. Now, one thing that isn't directly part of the BRI is the CCP efforts to claim islands in the China Sea and Pacific as theirs. But this all fits into the same goals that China has for global domination. This part of the CCP effort is to control key shipping lanes, and it cannot be allowed. China has already built an island and staffed it with military, and are claiming other islands that Vietnam and the Philippines claim as their own. I previously created a video on this subject if you're interested in further details. Is all of this painting a picture for you? It is for me. Scary, isn't it? You decide, but where the heck is our media on this? Okay, I provided my research for you, and you can decide if the BRI is something to be concerned about. While a lot of good comes from this initiative, it is the future I am concerned about, when countries have to pay back a loan shark. China. While the United States does all the same things that this initiative does, we are liberal with funds, and the use of intimidation is minuscule compared to that of China. I can't say there's none, but it is minuscule. A China that will do what it can to dominate and control all these countries cannot be allowed to stand. All I am saying is beware of wolf in sheep's clothing. Know the facts, the good and bad, and then make up your mind about China's efforts. I personally do not trust China as a trading partner or foe. They are communists, and the party is above all else. Of course, all in my opinion. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope it was informative for you. Be safe, be informed, and stay informed with CIC News for you. This is Charlie, signing off.